So first I'm going to give you a quick lesson in perspective. If you've got your little image printed out in front of you, that's a great thing to start with. It's got slight perspective on this little hut, corrugated hut. Really beautiful, lots of them in Wales, really characterful and just a sign of resourcefulness and self-build. You know, you can put these up on your own in some circumstances. You get them in gardens, and I've even got one on the side of my house, which is our upholstery workshop. They're brilliant structures. I absolutely love them, and they're very much loved in Wales. So let's draw one. So we're going to draw one on a piece of cartridge paper, and then you can either transfer it onto your acrylic paper for later, or you can draw directly onto your acrylic paper or canvas if you want to. But if you want to practice a bit of perspective, then this is how you do it. So we have a double point perspective here, and I'm just going to draw a rough drawing, and then you can sort of translate it in whatever way you want to translate it. So I'm starting with this edge here. Okay, I'm getting it more or less the length. Make sure it's vertical, and then there's one point perspective coming off over here. Your horizon is over here somewhere, and there's two vanishing points. There's one over here somewhere, and then there's one over here somewhere. 2-point perspective, this is called, or double point perspective. Okay. And then you basically just run a line from there to there, and the same on that side, and then from there to there on that side. Okay. So this is the length of the building. You have to sort of do it by eye. Okay. If you can find the middle, or more or less the middle. This is just very rough. I'm not thinking too hard about it. It's an old building. You don't really need to worry too much about getting things absolutely accurate, unlike if you were drawing your own house or that sort of thing. Okay, so this perspective goes off to this side. So the side of this initial outbuilding here, this would drop down to that vanishing point. So there's your roof, and there's your side. Okay, don't worry if it doesn't look exactly like the picture. We don't need to worry about that. Now the shed at the back is slightly offset. The centre of it is slightly over to the left of this point here. So I'm just going to draw a vertical line again, and I'm going to drop a line down here like that. And we need a line down there like that. Okay, so you're following the same rules. So it's not that high actually, it only comes to about here. So actually the line would go like that, and then the side of the building would probably be over here. And I'll explain something in a minute, because you'll be saying, but it doesn't look like that on the picture. So the side of the building would be here, and then the roof would, now we can't see the roof, but we can see a little bit of the side. So that's more or less how the building looks, but we can't see this angle, mainly because we're looking at it from below. We're looking up at the building. Okay, so don't worry about that too much. I just wanted to show you how to work with 2-point perspective. Okay, but that corner, if we were looking at it from slightly higher perspective, then that corner, we would see this corner here. Okay, that's why we've got it in there. All right, so once you've got it to this stage, you can either redraw it and use your acrylic paper or canvas. It's up to you. So I've drawn it here, and again I've drawn it so that we can see this side. because I want a more straight on perspective to the building, so that it's easier to collage, because we're going to use some collage. We're going to do mixed media this time, and I just wanted to see more of this gable end here, so I've changed the image slightly. All right, so that's how my image, and I've also drawn it straight on. Can you see how that is not angled up to a perspective way up here? So this is looking at it as if we're looking almost directly side on from the gable end. Okay, but we have got point perspective here. All right, so we've got gable end and then the perspective coming. So all these lines, if you followed them away, eventually they would all join up. That one, and that one, they would all join up at a point over there on the horizon. And the same with this line and this line and this line and this line. Okay, these are, because they're flat onto us, they don't show any perspective. This one would as well all disappear to that single point over there on the left. Okay, I hope that's fairly clear. So like I said, if you want to practice on a piece of cartridge, get a few buildings going, and then do your finished image on here. You can use normal pencil. I've got quite a soft pencil here and it's made a bit of a mess, but it doesn't matter because we're going to paint over it in the end. Leave some space for trees, and we're going to do foliage all the way around. We're going to have a little bit of sky in the background here, but we're going to use pieces of cardboard for the building itself. Okay, so the next time, the next bit I'll show you will be how to start the picture. Okay, so on my paper plate here, I have got some pale blue, whether it's cerulean blue or cobalt blue. This is acrylic paint. My blue's a bit dry, so I'm just going to add a touch of water. Remember, not too much water with acrylic, just be careful with it. And we've got some white. I'm going to mix a pale blue. So just a little bit of white and a little bit of blue. Don't squeeze out too much paint. We don't want to have mountains of paint left over, unless you've got some containers like I have here. Containers, airtight containers, so you can scrape your excess paint off into them and save it for another painting. Don't use too much paint. Okay, a little bit of water, get it going, but not too much. Okay, so we're going to put this. So we've got our drawing ready. We don't need to worry about the paper curling up. It doesn't really do it with acrylic paper. If you're working on watercolour paper, which you can do, you can stick it down with some tape before you put any paint onto it. So you can use acrylic paint on watercolour paper. You can also use pieces of cardboard. I use cereal packets a lot, and I just prime them with a bit of white acrylic. Okay, so nice creamy consistency, really well mixed. Don't have any bits, any lumps of paint. And then we're just going to put a whole load of it over the sky area. I'm going to leave a slight edge on the top because I want to I don't want to go over the edge onto my desk, but I also want to leave an edge if I want to frame the picture. Okay, so over we go. Now you can see that my lines are showing through my painting here, but I'm not too concerned about that because we're going to do so much work on top of this sky that we should be okay. So I'm using a square acrylic brush, and I'm just going in very loosely and putting this paint down. Make sure you get it all off your brush, off the ferrule. That's that bit, that's the ferrule. And just get it on, and make sure you put it everywhere, because we don't want to just put it in places, in small places, and then find that we have to then go back in and fill it in because we've not painted enough branches in or enough foliage. So make sure you get enough on there, and you can leave it quite rough, or you can smooth it out. And if you want, you can either put, while it's still wet, you can even add a little bit more of the blue to darken or lighten things up if you add white. So unlike watercolour, in acrylic we add white to lighten things up. You can add other colours to lighten things up, but you can add white. This is, you know, you are allowed to use white, whereas in watercolour we tend to avoid white and black. And you can work this until it dries out. It does dry quite quickly, but not as quickly as watercolour. And like I said, if you wanted to add more white, maybe on one side you could, but we can't really see anything. We can't see any clouds or any other detail here. So, you know, it doesn't have to be detailed because we're going to cover it up, most of it anyway. Okay, so like I said, if you want it to be smooth, all you need to do is get rid of the excess paint on your brush and just lightly go over like this, just lightly with a semi-dry brush, lightly like that, and then it'll smooth it out. I like to leave my brush marks on my paintings because I like the textures. Okay, so that's one. And then the other stage is to do the same, but with some form of green. So in this set I've got this sort of really, if I can open it, yeah, it's a pale green. It's a green mixed with a bit of white. And I'm just going to, well no, actually that's a bit hard, so maybe I'll have to use this other one. Oops, is this one what, dry? Not dried out, but okay. So I've got some green here. Just going to wet it down again a little bit, not too much, just to get it moving because it's dried out a bit in my container. This is quite old paint, so over time it does dry out a bit. But these are leftover bits from other paintings, and I'm going to add that green in again. The white in. And you can darken it up by adding some blue in if you wanted to. Mix a colour, a green that you like. And we're going to have to put this everywhere. But also we're going to use a yellow ochre. So you probably have this in a tube in your paint sets. Yellow ochre. Wash your brush off a bit. And hopefully this is not dry. Oh, did I get that up? Not dried out too much. It's all right. It's not too bad. There we go. This is yellow ochre. Scrape it out. There we go. And now we need to add also to that some white, and I've run out of white, so I'm just going to put a little blob on top of it. These paper plates are great because you can throw them away, which is grand, and they're also biodegradable even though they've got a bit of paint on them. You can use pallets or even dinner plates, or some people use pieces of glass, pieces of plastic. I know people that put cling film over their plates and plastic and things like that, work on top of the cling film and then throw it away. But it's not, you can get environmentally friendly cling film now, but it's not massively environmentally good. Anyway, okay, so here we have our yellow ochre, and we're just going to put that roughly in certain places, just really random, scrape it off your brush. Again, it doesn't matter if it's lumpy, the lumps will add to the texture. Have a bit of fun with it. I haven't mixed up a great deal of yellow ochre, but we will put on, this is just an undercoat, okay? So it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to describe anything at the moment. All right, and we're going to put some green up here, just a little bit of green. That was that green colour. Doesn't matter if it doesn't colour match particularly, just sort of blend it in a bit. And then we're going to take a little bit more of that yellow ochre. I'm going to take this directly from the tube and put it on up here. Now you need to find the top of the tree line there, so don't go any further than that. Get it on. This is lots of fun, and don't worry about things mixing, don't worry about your lead going into your paint. All of that will add to the picture. And the trees go up here a bit, so just put a few marks here and there, but not many. We want to be able to see the sky through these trees, so we don't need too much definition. And it goes up the middle there. Again, loose random strokes, and then a few marks here, but not many, and then that's it. Wash your brush, make sure you wash your brushes out straight away. Clean up any mess on your clothes, on your desk. Don't let acrylic dry. It is a nightmare to get off. And if you've got excess paint on your palette, you can either scrape it up and put it into one of these containers like I said, and they'll keep for a while, or you just have to throw it away. Okay. It might be that you move straight on with your painting, which means you can use this. So if you want to use it in a little while, then cover it with a piece of cling film. Or if you're lucky enough to have a stay wet palette, put that in to Google search and make one. You can just make it out of a plastic tray with a lid on, and you put in fact, I don't know whether I think I've got a link to one of those on my YouTube channel, so check it out. Stay wet palette. You can buy them, but you can make them really cheaply. All right, so that's the first stage, and you just leave that to dry. You can dry it with a hairdryer. Unlike watercolour, it doesn't react badly to being dried. If you put it near a radiator, you can do that, but don't put it on your radiator because the paper will curl, and if you've got canvas, it'll warp the frame. So you can put it somewhere warm near a radiator. You can dry it off with a hairdryer, but don't put it on anything hot. Okay. In a minute, I'll show you what to do with the painting part of it. Okay, so now this is dry, we're going to use some corrugated card to start the mixed media part of this. So it's acrylic paint and card that we're going to work with. And I've just got this piece of card from the inside of the cardboard box, and I'm going to work with that. Okay, so any cardboard box will do, and what you need to do is you need to cut pieces that will fit onto your building. So like this, oh no, like this. Okay, so just cut out sections. I think I've got a piece that goes in the middle there, okay, that fit. Where's that bit? I think that bit, that's the vertical, so that probably goes there, etc, etc. Roof in. Okay, and then what you need to do is just get your corrugated card and peel off the top layer. So here we go. Oops. Let me just start this here. What you want is the top layer though, because you want to leave a little bit of the underside behind. There it goes. Right, so peel that top layer off if you can. If it gets left behind a bit, go at it from the other side. And also, if bits stay on, don't worry, that like that is a really nice texture. But you can see that already that is producing the same texture as corrugated iron. You may have some of this in your garden. Okay, so once you've peeled it off, you're going to stick it down like that. All right. So again, I think I've done, did I do one already? Yeah, that one I did. Okay, and there you have your corrugation. It's a marvellous texture to work with. I'm going to peel and stick, but I'm going to put it on time lapse so that you can watch me, okay? Okay, so the next stage, once this is stuck down, make sure it's stuck down well, is to paint some dark paint in here and to paint the corrugated structure. So I'm just going to take, I've got a series of paints here. I've got some browns, a bit of grey, a bit of yellowy colour, some beige, a little bit of white and a bit of black. And I'm just going to take a bit of black, I'm going to add a bit of white into it. So this is just an acrylic brush, the same one I used for the background. And I'm just going to paint this door in inside, so we've got a dark space to work with in there. Okay, and you can add a little bit more black if you want to add a bit more black, make it darker, make it lighter. You can mix your paint on your palette. You can do what I do, which is sometimes I mix my paint on the canvas. But this is a confidence thing, so you might not be confident enough to do that, so it's up to you. You work how you want to work. I didn't cut my windows out of the corrugated, so I'm just going to put them back in roughly where they're supposed to be. So in there, and we can paint the lighter bits in later. Again, this is just a dark grey tone. Okay, there we go. There's our windows. I know we've got a couple of windows down the side here, but we're going to put those in a minute. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to colour this in this sort of washed out white tone. So I've got a dirty brush. You can see it's dirty, it's still got grey on it. I'm just going to pick up a bit of white, I'm just going to pick up a bit of yellow, and I'm going to sort of have bits of different colour on my brush. And I'm just going to run this lightly up and down. Can you see those lines where the corrugated is? And that will give you, turn your brush, paint it off, because it will start to blend. I need to stick that back down a bit. You can see it's peeling up a bit. Put some more glue on there. There we go. Hopefully that'll stick. Use the excess paint on your brush and just keep adding to those lines on the... If there's certain colours in certain places, pick them up. Mix the colours first and add a dot of water if you need to, but not too much because it does get out of control. Water if you're not careful. And it's supposed to look dilapidated, so you don't want it to be perfect. It needs to be patchy. All right, it's rusting corrugated iron, but it has been painted at some point with white. So get your colours on first, get your lighter tones, and then what we'll do is we'll apply a bit of white to it. We've got a bit of blue looking coming on that side, so you can cheer it up a bit by adding colour in places. A bit of reddy brown over here. And you can see it's already starting to look like an old rusty building. Rather nice. Can't see what's going on over there, so we'll have to make it up. We've got a little bit of roof there, but not a great deal. We'll put a bit of red over here. Well, it's not red, it's like a burnt sienna. Okay, once you've got a bit of colour on like that, you just take your whites and you're going to run the white down loosely, just almost touching the topmost layer, and keep adding more white because you want it to stay white. It will blend with the paint underneath, you see. I just realised I've put that across, but never mind. All adds to the texture. There we go. A bit on the roof, just a touch. We can't see much of the roof, so a bit on the sides, coming all the way down, and it gets darker as it goes backwards, so just add less white as it goes backwards. And then there's a white side here, and then it goes blue and it goes under the roof, quite white under the roof section, under the window. You might overwork it, and if you overwork it, you can just paint out whatever colour you've overworked, or you can peel off the cardboard and add another piece. But I'm going to leave that. I'm going to just put a little bit on the roof because it would be lighter. Okay, righto. Now, next job, take a smaller brush. So I've got a smaller acrylic brush. Make sure you use acrylic brushes. And this is where you're going to be a bit more careful with application of colour. So you've got a smaller brush, more detailed points. So if there are areas like here where there's lighter patches like that, put them in directly under the roof. There's a bit more white. Keep adding more paint. Don't be frugal with your paint. Under this, under here. All the detail around the door and places will really bring it for. Oops, that's come off. I have to re-stick that later. You can re-stick things if they come up off you on you. And we've got detail there. Now I'm going to put the windows in on the side. Just use a little bit of burnt sienna or burnt umber, dark brown. Make sure again that you get it moving, especially if it's a bit dry like mine is. Just a touch of water, not too much, not too lumpy. Okay, and then you can pop those windows in. You can only see the little bit of them. I'm going to put a little bit of black into that as well, just to make it stand out a bit. And there's something there, but I'm not sure what that is, but we'll put it in anyway. Okay, and then go back into your windows, take some black and really harden those edges up that need to be hardened. Okay, so we've got a black section there, that's fine. And then inside here we've also got a black-ish section. So I'm just going to put that in just quite lightly. It doesn't have to be too accurate. And we can't see the bottom because it's going to be covered in foliage. Going back in with the brown. I'm going to put a stripe across here. Like that. And then a lighter tone using the white above it. Or I could use one of my other yellowy colours. Whatever you want to mix up to make a lighter tone. I've got a bit of brown in there and a bit of this Naples yellow it's called, but you could use any yellow. And I'm just going to put that window in, and I'm going to make it quite strong so it stands out. Make sure you get in those little grooves like that. A slightly different tone underneath, maybe a grey or something like that. Get in those grooves there. And then we've got this almost white tone in here. Again, it will be an off-white, so there. And then we can go inside the door in here. Just lighten this up a little. You're working on top of colour, so whatever colour you put on top will automatically darken with whatever is underneath. So there we go. Okay, and I'm going to just wash my brush off really well. And I'm going to take a bit of white. And I'm going to try and get some kind of surround on that door. Okay. So just a little bit neater on the door surround, like this, just to bring it out a bit more, just on the sort of around the edge. Okay, so that's that. Now, a brown, we're going to work on the roof. So we need the paint to be quite thick because we need it to stand out. We need quite a lot of the paint. Remember, this is all acrylic. If you're not using acrylic and you want to use watercolour, then you can just basically do what I'm doing, but start with your palest colours first. So your lightest colours first, and then just work towards your dark colours. That's all you can do. Right, okay, let's apply this. So we've got a roof, a piece of wood that's separating this part here. Now, if you wanted to, you could cut another piece of cardboard and put this in. But if you want to, you can just do what I'm doing, which is just paint it in. And we can only see this side thickly. The other side is there, but it's rather thin. Okay, so we're going to put that in thickly, like that. And we do have a side here that's going off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to darken that bit up with a bit of black. Just that bit, like that. Okay. And you can even bring a little bit of something down there, and that'll sort of give your eye a guide to the sides. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side, but we'll just do it slightly thinner. So again, just apply your paint. You can do this with a pen if you want to. If you've got those Posca pens or acrylic pens of any kind. You can do this with a pen. Oh, are we still recording? Yes, we are. Good. Right. Slightly concerned about running out of battery. Okay, so there's the side, and then I mean you can go into detail and put little window ledges on and things like that if you want to. Let's put some brown here. So again, quite thick. Oops, picked up a bit of blue there somehow. Quite thick. There we go. All the way along. And again down this side. But quite thin, if you can. There's the roof. And also down this side here. Okay, so there we have our little hut. Now what I would do is I would leave that to dry. However, to motor on and to use the excess paint that's on this palette, we're going to put a lot of texture on here using a piece of sponge. Okay, now if you haven't got sponge, you can use scrunched up toilet tissue or a rag or a bit of, I've got some paper bag, you know, just find something that will give you a texture. And you want to dip your sponge or whatever you're using in a little bit of water, just soften it up a little bit, and then take any of these colours that you find in that picture and dab your sponge in, and then we're going to go, so I'm going to start light to dark, so I'm going in with the yellow and I'm just going to start applying this paint all over where there are light areas. So there's a bit up here, a bit up there, and this is a really good way of getting rid of your excess paint. Just be careful around the top because this tree is behind your building. And that comes down a little bit in front. There's quite a lot of light, just a bit up here maybe. Okay, then when you've done with one colour, you can go and use another colour. So I've got a slightly lighter tone here. I'm just going to put a little bit more down this foreground area. But really, just have a bit of fun with this technique. It's really fun, and you know, it's something that you can use in all sorts of different situations. You can do rocks, you can do grasslands, you know, you can do all sorts with it. I've got a bit of orange. Have I got any orange? I might not have any orange mixed up. So I'm going to work with my limited palette that I've got here. All right, but if you want to put some orange in here, then you can. You could always mix some red, excuse me, some red. I have got some red, if I can get it open and out of the palette. Let's try this colour here. Oops, it's a little bit thick. And I could probably add a little bit of red into this yellow. Oh, it's gone a little bit pink though. That's not a bad colour though. I mean, preferably use orange. Have I got any yellow? Let me just see if I've got any yellow. Just 1 second. Yes, I have got some yellow, so if I get some, if I can manage to get some of this out of here. Yeah. Don't know how much I'll need. So I'll put that out for now. and we'll see what sort of orange I'm going to get from this red and this yellow. So let's have a look, shall we? You can mix a little bit and see how it goes. Actually, that's not a bad orange. That's quite nice. So experiment. We need a sort of a burnt orange really in this circumstance. It's clearly probably autumn, early winter. So we're after more of a burnt orange than a bright orange, so that's probably ideal. Where's my sponge? Right, I dipped my sponge in some brown. So I'm just going to get rid of that colour down here. Like that. Where it's darker, and there's a little bit coming in there. And a little bit up here. And we could probably get away with putting a bit here. Just observe and try not to cover up all of your sky. It's really important that you leave little gaps. Can you see, like that one there, that one there? Leave little gaps showing through your foliage so that the eye has got somewhere to go. Okay, into the orange now, orange and yellow. I'm going to put this down here. You can see this building up. I mean, this is all bracken and a little bit of fern. So we just need to try and capture that shade for bracken and fern. Oh, it's a bit red there, but never mind. Get some of that coming out there like that. You can see the colours building up. Doesn't matter if you've got some mixing going on the canvas. Nice stripe of orange there. Let's get a bit more yellow in it. A bit more orange, a tiny bit there. We all are also going to paint some of this, so you don't need to worry too much. Right, so the next stage is to get in with that brown again. So a little bit of the burnt umber or the burnt sienna, and let's work in some browns here maybe. To begin with, your sponging will be quite thick, so if you go for the thicker areas first, and then you can get rid of the excess sponge colour, and then you can be a bit more delicate with it. There is some green down here actually, so maybe we will put in a bit of green. Let's pick up that green there. I'm not sure whether that's going to do very much. No, it isn't. Right, okay. So the next shade would be your brown black colour. So a little bit of black into the brown. And now you've got to be careful with this one. So we're just going to go in here. Just be really careful. Don't work this in too much. But this will give you definition. So, and we've still got an exposed bit of green there, but there's a little bit of darkness just in here. Use the side of your sponge just to pick out little areas where the darkness is. A little bit of darkness there, like that, and use the sponge as it is filled less with colour. There we go. Bit there. Coming down. And then on this side there's quite a lot. This is obviously the side where all the shade is. So we need to put in there quite a lot of darkness. Pick up a bit more because we've got a big dark patch just here. Again, this is play and experimentation. If you want to practice with your sponge before you do your finished piece, then do that. Put some colour on a bit of paper and just practice a bit with your sponge. Can you see how I turned that on the side? I found a side and it looks a bit like sort of stems, so I've just put in a few marks there just on the side just to create a little bit of texture, and I'm going to put some more dark there because there looks to be a fence or something in there, and there's a big dark patch just there. Right, I'm just going to try and put something there. I don't know what I've got left. Maybe a bit of yellow. A bit of that grey maybe. Just put some colour in here just to get rid of that green block. Okay, right, we're done. If you use the sponge, make sure you wash it off straight away, all right, and leave this just to dry for a little while, okay? Okay, so this is now more or less dry. I'm going to put the trees in now, and the trees are just going to be a mixture of black and brown, and we're just going to put these trees in on the right hand side, and then I'm going to put the odd branch here and maybe add a few details down the front, okay? But I'm going to do this on time lapse so that you can watch me do it. You can slow it down and speed it up, and you know, so that you can see exactly what I'm doing, but it's quite obvious what the next stage is. Okay, so I'm going to put it onto time lapse. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed watching that build up. I'm going to leave this to dry, and then I'm going to look at it again and assess whether I need to put anything else in there. There's already so much detail in this picture. It might be that I simplify some areas. It might be that I introduce some more detail in some areas, but I'm going to finish it there and hope for the best and see once I look at it with fresh eyes, maybe tomorrow or the day after. It's often good to let things go and come back and revisit them. I know I've got an issue here, but how much of an issue have I got? I don't know. All right. Enjoy. It's a really nice mixed media piece, and if you want to introduce some more mixed media in, one of the ways of solving this area would be to put in some scrunched up paper and paint over the top of it, so that comes forward and everything else goes backwards. Okay, or you could put in some really thick paint. You could even go in with a palette knife or something like that. Experiment, see what you can come up with. It'll be interesting to see your finished pictures. All right, enjoy. Ask me questions if you need to. I'm always here. Stay safe, everybody, and see you next week.